fame. I'll do whatever it takes to stay in the game. Baby, I'm a star. I'll shine bright no matter where you are. I'll rock the crowd, I'll steal the show. I can't let go, I can't let go. Oh, yeah. I crave the attention, the adoration. I'll do anything for that standing ovation. I'm a rock and roll rebel, a wild child. I'll keep on shining, I'll drive you wild. Baby, I'm a star. I'll shine bright no matter.
What happened? Did I win?
Yeah, you won, Malcolm. But I think you noticed a couple of things when I walked out that door, because first you heard the crowd, did you not? Yeah, I think you know where I belong and why I ruled it for so long. If not, I think your jaw's giving you a little reminder right now. Now, why did I lay down and give you the win? Is that what you're asking?
Why?
Because, let's see, for the last 20 years that I tried to fade away into the sunset and live my life, I can't turn the TV on and I don't hear some jabroni, some wannabe calling my name. Mean Mark this, mean Mark that. But you wanna know why I showed up for you tonight? Because you're the only one that had the balls to challenge me. That's why. But after you pinned me, I asked you, is this what you want? You're now the best. Is this what you wanted? Well, let me warn you, pal. It comes with a price. Because now, you see that X that used to be on my back? It's now right there. So now nobody's ever gonna leave you alone. Now you gotta go out and prove it night after night, week after week, day after day, that you are the best and you deserve to be the best. You see the point? I can now fade off into the sunset and never look at wrestling again and be happy. Now, as long as you're still breathing.
As the arena lights faded behind me and the roar of the crowd became a distant memory, I told myself it was over, that I'd wrestled my last match. But stepping out into the cold night, something inside me sparked. The adrenaline, the hunger, the urge to prove I still have what it takes surged through my veins. I realized right there in the empty parking lot I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I laced up my boots again, heading to the gym before dawn, sweat pouring as I pushed harder than I ever have. Every ache and bruise only fueled my fire. This comeback, this final showdown, became my obsession. Because sometimes when everyone thinks you're finished, that's exactly when you come alive.
There's a specific kind of silence that follows the roar of 100,000 people chanting your name. It's a heavy, suffocating quiet that swallows everything. 1 minute, you are the center of the universe, a sun orbited by a million flashing cameras and adoring eyes. The next, you're just a guy in a coffee shop waiting for a latte, and the barista can't even be bothered to spell your name right. What happens when the world that made you forgets you? This is the story of Mark Ashe, a man who had it all, lost it all, and found himself standing in that deafening silence. But for him, the silence wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the fight. Because his fame had faded, but he was not done yet. This isn't just a "where are they now" story. This is a deep dive into the psychology of a fallen idol. It's an exploration of what happens to a person's soul when the external validation that defined their entire existence is stripped away, layer by painful layer. The story of Mark Ashe is a potent case study in the brutal, cyclical nature of modern fame. The meteoric rise, the brilliant, blinding peak, the slow, grinding descent into irrelevance, and the fourth act that nobody ever talks about, the comeback. Not for the fame, not for the money, but for the one thing he truly lost himself. We're going to dissect the anatomy of a fade-out, the crushing weight of anonymity, and how the ghost of past glory can become the fuel for a future no one saw coming. To understand the fall, you have to understand the height. At 24, Mark Ashe wasn't just a rock star, he was a cultural phenomenon. As the frontman of the wrestling faction Bad Company, he was the poet laureate of a generation's angst and aspiration. Think of the swagger of Jagger, the soul of Cobain, and the showmanship of Mercury, all rolled into one charismatic, leather-clad package. Their tour, Electric Midnight, wasn't just a tour. It was the soundtrack to a million first kisses, late-night drives, and youthful rebellions. It went diamond. They sold out stadiums from Wembley to the Tokyo Dome. Mark's face was on every magazine cover, his catchphrases tattooed on the arms of his fans. He lived in a world where friction didn't exist. Doors opened before he reached them. Drinks appeared before he was thirsty. He had a penthouse overlooking the city, a rotating cast of beautiful people in his orbit, and the unquestioning adoration of the masses. He remembers one night, standing on stage at the legendary Glastonbury Festival. A sea of humanity, over 100,000 people, stretched out before him, singing his words back to him under the pouring rain. In that moment, he felt invincible. He wasn't just Mark Ashe, the kid from a dead-end town. He was a god, forged in feedback and floodlights, and he believed, with every fiber of his being, that the roar would never, ever stop. But it did. The end wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, creeping rot. The band, a brotherhood forged in a cramped van, fractured under the immense pressure of success. Egos swelled, resentments festered, and the magic died in sterile, expensive TV studios. Bad Company broke up. The press called it creative differences. The truth was, they couldn't stand the sight of each other. Mark, confident in his own legend, went solo, but the world had moved on. His brand of anthemic rock felt like a relic. The zeitgeist had shifted to hip-hop and bedroom pop. His solo album, the one he poured his heart into, landed with a thud. It was met with critical indifference and commercial failure, mediocre success in music, and the phone, which once rang off the hook with offers and invitations, grew quiet. The so-called friends, the ones who were always there for the champagne, vanished. He was left with the silence, and in that silence, a terrifying question emerged. If he wasn't Mark Ashe, the rock star, who was he? His entire identity had been built on the reflection he saw in other people's eyes. He had outsourced his self-worth to the charts, the critics, and the crowds. Without them, he was a ghost haunting the mansion of his own past. He was experiencing a profound identity crisis. The spotlight had been so bright for so long, he'd never learned to see in the dark. And now, he was plunged into an endless, anonymous night. The indignities were small at first, like 1,000 paper cuts to the ego. He'd walk into a restaurant where he once had a permanently reserved table, and the young hostess would ask if he had a reservation, her eyes scanning a list where his name no longer appeared. The contrast between then and now was a constant, visceral pain. Take the airport. In his prime, he'd be whisked by a private car onto the tarmac, bypassing security and crowds entirely. He'd walk from a black SUV straight onto a private jet. Now, he was standing in the snaking TSA line at LAX at 6 in the morning. He watched a teenager a few feet ahead wearing a faded, vintage Bad Company tour shirt from the Electric Midnight era. The kid was probably wearing it ironically. Mark felt a flicker of something. Pride, nostalgia, but it was quickly extinguished. When it was his turn, the tired TSA agent glanced at his ID, looked at his face, and saw nothing, just another traveler. "Shoes and laptop out of the bag, sir." The word "sir" felt more insulting than any slur. It was a marker of his newfound invisibility. Or the coffee shop, a daily ritual of humiliation. He'd stand in line, listening to people around him buzz about some new viral star who got famous overnight for a 15-second video. He'd get to the counter, order a black coffee, and say his name, Mark, M-A-R-C. More often than not, the cup would come back with Mark scrawled on the side. He once saw a young woman discreetly take a photo of him. For a split second, the old adrenaline surged. A fan. But then he saw her send it to a friend with the caption, "This guy looks like a sad, old version of that wrestler my mom used to like." The sting was unbearable. He wasn't even a person anymore. He was a piece of trivia, a before picture in the story of his own life. The grocery store was a minefield of memories. At the checkout, he saw his face staring back from a cheap tabloid. A rock stars who let themselves go feature. He was sandwiched between a bloated 80s hair metal guitarist and a 90s pop star who now sold real estate. He wasn't a legend. He was a punchline. For 2 years, he drifted in this purgatory. He drank too much. He rewatched old wrestling footage, trying to feel something, anything. He was on the verge of accepting his fate as a footnote in wrestling history. The moment of change wasn't a lightning bolt. It was the slow, dawning realization that the anonymity he loathed was also a form of liberation. If nobody was watching, that meant nobody had any expectations. He was free. The anger and self-pity began to curdle into something else. Resolve. He sold the Hollywood Hills mansion, a monument to a life that no longer existed. He moved into a small, unassuming house in a quiet neighborhood, and he went back to the beginning. He rented a cramped, dusty rehearsal space. The kind of place Bad Company had started in 2 decades ago. The air smelled of stale beer and old amplifiers. It felt real. He started writing, but this time he wasn't trying to write an anthem for the masses. He was writing for an audience of one. He wrote about the silence. He wrote about the humiliation of the coffee shop, the ghost in the airport, the face in the tabloid. The lyrics were raw, stripped back, and brutally honest. There was no swagger, no rock god posturing. There was only the stark vulnerability of a man who had flown too close to the sun and was now mapping his own scars. He started wrestling in promotions that wasn't designed for stadiums, but for small, dark rooms. It was quiet, intense, and deeply personal. He wasn't trying to reclaim his fame. He was trying to reclaim his voice. Mark's journey forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth about fame. It's a transaction. The public grants you a temporary godhood, but the price is your authentic self. Your image becomes public property, polished and packaged and sold. And when the public decides the product is no longer valuable, they discard it without a second thought. Mark's initial crisis stemmed from confusing his public image with his private identity. He believed he was the rock god. When that image shattered, he thought he had shattered with it. His comeback mission represents a profound shift in perspective, moving from a life powered by external validation to one built on internal validation. The roar of the crowd is an addictive drug, but the quiet satisfaction of creating something true, something that reflects your own experience, that is sustainable, that is real. He is redefining success. It's no longer about pay-per-view appearances and sold-out arenas. It's about artistic integrity. It's about creating something that matters to him, first and foremost. This new chapter isn't about becoming a star again. It's about becoming an artist. The goal is no longer to be seen by millions of people who don't know him, but to be truly understood by a few who connect with his honesty. So, we followed the trajectory of Mark Ashe. From the blinding pinnacle of global stardom, where his name was a household word, to the disorienting abyss of anonymity, where he was just another face in the crowd. We'd seen how the loss of fame can trigger a fundamental crisis of identity, leaving a person feeling like a ghost in their own life. The small, daily humiliations, the painful contrast between a glorious past and an invisible present, it's a psychological crucible. But the key takeaway from his story isn't the tragedy of the fall, it's the power of the climb back up. Mark's journey shows us that the end of fame doesn't have to be the end of the story. That crushing silence can be the very thing that allows a new, more authentic voice to emerge. The pain of being forgotten can be transmuted into the most powerful creative fuel imaginable. He teaches us that true, lasting success isn't measured by applause or accolades. It's measured by the courage to redefine who you are, to find your purpose when the world is no longer watching, and to build a new identity from the ashes of the old one. We don't know if Mark Ashe will ever wrestle a stadium again, but in a way it no longer matters. He's not chasing the ghost of who he was. He's finally becoming the man he was always meant to be. He's not done yet. What do you think truly defines a person's success? Is it the external validation of fame and fortune, or is it something deeper, something more personal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And can you think of other public figures who have navigated the treacherous waters of fading fame and reinvented themselves in a powerful way? I'd love to read your examples. If this story resonated with you, show your support by hitting that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our culture. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when a new story drops. Thanks for watching.
On the live stream, you're watching Summer Showdown, the 20th anniversary here of the UPWA. It's an honor to have you here, and it's an honor to induct this year's class of 2025 into the UPWA Hall of Fame. Let's start with our first recipient. He says, I started my wrestling career in 1985. I was trained by Nelson Royal and Jane Anderson in Mooresville, North Carolina, at their housing camp for 2 years. Then I made my debut, I should say, in 1987 with the National Wrestling Alliance. I worked for the NWA for about 5 years, and then they changed to WCW. I continued wrestling for them until, well, I've actually not stopped. I took on the name Dark Star from a tribe in South Africa. I am from Wilmington, North Carolina. I wrestled for New Hanover High School, class of 1976. Wrestling coach James Morrissey. I worked for several wrestling federations all over the United States. Great people to work for. My hobbies are camping, fishing, and gardening, and working with youth. Folks, it could only be one person, and that is Dark Star, inducted in the UPWA Hall of Fame.
I'd like to say thank you for so much. It's good to be recognized by your peers. Whatever I have achieved is because of y'all. So thank you for the memories. And I would always cherish this moment from the bottom of my heart. Y'all made it possible for me. And the young gladiators, the future was very bright for y'all. Thank you.
Dark Star, everybody. Congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the memories. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next recipient grew up a lifelong fan that had a lot of backstage access. He trained initially under Chief Jay Eagle and had his first match on June 3rd, 1989. A couple years later, he met and worked with Nelson Royal, which opened doors. From there, had his first match on the national stage in 1992 with the Global Wrestling Federation. Wrestling such greats as Nelson Royal, Ivan Koloff, Chief Wahoo McDaniel, Viscera, Shane Helms, Brad Scott and Steve Armstrong, George South, and many others. It is our honor to induct into the 2025 UPWA Hall of Fame, Mark Ash. Would you like to say a few words?
All right, for those of you who know me, I'm sure you're probably expecting some arrogant, cocky heel promo, but that's not what you're going to get tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody that came out to see me, because 1989, Star, you started a couple years ahead of me. We wrestled in 5 different decades, buddy. You know, but 1989, when I started, I did it all for me, because it's what I wanted to do. But you fans, you came out and supported me. You got behind me. I became a fan favorite, heel, whatever you love to hate, whatever you love to cheer. I was there for you. And thanks to you, I got to go all around the world, all around the country. It looks like Dark Star ahead of me. You know, I want to say thank you to, you know, much like he said, to the fans who made it all possible, and to the peers in the back. You know, because Donnie can tell you, and Dark Star can tell you, backstage, I was just as unpredictable as I was in the ring. You know, I could either be your best friend or the biggest pain in the ass. A lot of it depends on which mood I was in. But like I said, I'm going to thank everybody that put up with me first and foremost, and you all guys for supporting me. Thank you for recognizing me, and I appreciate it.
Mark Ash, everybody. Congratulations on your induction into the UPWA Hall of Fame. Last but not least, our final inductee started in 2004 and trained by Mr. Italy, Gino Caruso. Got into wrestling by watching WrestleMania 3 with his Uncle Dario and the match between Savage and Steamboat. It made him want to be a wrestler. He started in the UPWA in 2006, captured the world title and tag team titles in very short order. Despite a relatively short time in the company, he was one of the building blocks that set the trend early, helping the people wait for UPWA for 20 years. He wishes he was able to entertain the fans of Wilmington even more, and is extremely proud of being inducted into the Hall of Fame huge honor for him personally. Those are his words, Playboy Marcus Shields. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Playboy Marcus Shields was unfortunately not able to be here with us tonight, so we will accept the honor on his behalf. Thank you, and congratulations to all our inductees in the UPWA Hall of Fame class of 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, it remains a big honor to be with you here on this 20th anniversary and Summer Showdown. Our main event is still to come. It's War Games. And we'll be bringing that to you here very shortly. Stick with us. After a brief intermission, our main event will be underway.
Good man.
Spotlights flicker across rows of empty seats, their silence echoing louder than any crowd ever did. Mark Ashe stands in the center of the ring, the ropes sagging and the mat worn with memories. He looks around, haunted by the cheers that once filled his world. "All my life, all I ever wanted was this, wrestling," Mark whispers, his voice trembling. "But tonight the arena is empty. My time has passed. I've given the torch to the next in line. Now I face the question I've run from for so long. Who am I without this?" He steps closer to the ropes, gripping them with knuckles gone pale. "I've lost and won. I've been broken and rebuilt. But the real battle isn't in the ring. It's finding my purpose beyond it. Maybe my legacy is more than my victories. Maybe it's my story. And tonight I start the hardest match I've ever faced, the rest of my life.